Hello there, you're now with me, Hendigui, and welcome to your 5 p.m. English News on TVS. Let's dive into the topics for today. Deputy Chief Minister Dr. Amar Douglas UGGAH returned to his previous duties as Chairman of the Sarawak Disaster Management Committee SDMC, effective Thursday, January 7th. State Secretary Dr. Amar Jauh Samion handed over the appointment letter to UGGAH at Wisma Bapak, Malaysia.
The handing over of duties was witnessed by Deputy Chief Minister, who is also the advisor of SDMC, Dato Sri Dr. Sim Kui Hian, Deputy State Secretary for Rural Transformation, Dato Ik Pahonjoik, and Acting Director of Sarawak Health Department, Dr. Rosmawati Arifin. For the record, on 6 November 2021, UGGAH passed the duties of SDMC Chairman to Jaul, following the dissolution of the Sarawak State Legislative Assembly to make way for the 12th Sarawak State election.
Now, Dato Sri Stephen Rundi Anak Utom has officially received a letter of appointment to helm the Ministry of Agriculture, Modernisation and Regional Development, and said his main focus will be to elevate Sarawak's status until it becomes a net food producer and exporter, and at the same time assist rural farmers to commercialise their products. Presenting the letter was Deputy Chief Minister Dato Amar Douglas UGGAH, who is now the second Minister of Finance and New Economy, come Minister of Infrastructure and Port Development.
The ceremony was also attended by the ministry's former Assistant Minister, Dato Roland Sagawi, who has been appointed as the Minister of Education, Innovation and Talent Development, as well as Dr. Abdul Rahman Ismail and Martin Ben, who were appointed as the ministry's assistant ministers. In Rundi's brief speech, he stated that the agriculture sector is one of the main enablers of the state's post-COVID-19 development strategy, PCDS, to become a high-income state by the year 2030. And he hoped to emulate UGGAH's work culture, as the ministry has seen much improvement in recent years. UGGAH meanwhile conveyed his appreciation to everyone from all agencies under the ministry for their full support during his tenure for the last 5 years.
Now, several leaders from Parti Rakyat Sarawak or PRS have voiced out their opinions on the party's representation in the State Cabinet of Ministers. As it has yet to be addressed, political analyst from the University of Tasmania, Professor James Chin, looks at several options for the Chief Minister to resolve the matter.
Those are cabinet appointments. I think it's extremely difficult for the Chief Minister to bring him an additional minister, for the simple reason that the number of ministers in the Sarawak Cabinet is dictated by the Sarawak Constitution. So they only can have a maximum of 10 ministers. But if he were to make any changes, I suspect he will reward PRS with maybe an additional assistant minister, maybe a few more political secretaries. And of course, people keep forgetting that the chief ministers have other patronage as well. They can appoint people to government-linked companies. Companies are linked to the Sarawak government. There's about 200 positions there as well.
James made it clear that the late president of PRS, Tan Sri James Jemut Masing, was an irreplaceable asset to the state government with decades of experience, as Masing was first appointed in the 90s. With this loss, PRS's morale is greatly affected, but James said this alone will not prompt the chief minister to reshuffle his cabinet of ministers.
Normally, you do a cabinet reshuffle if your cabinet is not working according to expectations. So this cabinet is a completely brand new cabinet. As you know, the state election was just held last month. So obviously you need a bit of time for the new cabinet to settle down to do their work. So that's the reason why I said that I don't expect any cabinet reshuffle, at least for the next 6 to 10 months. Normally, chief ministers will wait for a year before they will do something about cabinet reshuffle, especially if the cabinet is.
Parti Pesaka Bumi Putra Bersatu PBB will drop strategies and work harder in the next few months to get closer to the young people who will be voting for the first time in the 15th General Election or GE15. PBB Vice President Dr. Anwar Rapai said the automatic enforcement of voting rights for those aged 18 years old called for a different approach by political parties, as young voters needed to be engaged more frequently and consistently compared to older groups.
Adding to that, he said it needed to be done more often and in a consistent manner to ensure the outcome of Undi 18 is positive and beneficial. A federal government gazette dated December 1st, 2021 stated that the automatic registration of voters aged 18 and above came into effect on December 15 the same year. Dr. Anwar, a three-term Nangka State Assemblyman, was grateful for being able to retain the seat in the recent Sarawak state election with a majority of more than 10,000 votes. He added, retaining the majority seats in the upcoming election will not be an easy task under the new norm. Hence, PBB will have to go all out from the very beginning.
As of 1 p.m. today, a total of 44,573 or 85.7% of the 52,024 heads of households affected by the recent floods have each received the 1,000 ringgit Bantuan Wang Ihsan or BWI.
Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said those who have yet to register can contact the Disaster Command Centre (PKOB) and district officers concerned to get the federal government aid. The government had announced the Keluarga Malaysia Flood Aid or BWI of 1,000 ringgit for the head of every affected household compared to 500 ringgit previously. The payment has been distributed since December 27 last year, just 10 days after the unusually massive floods hit several states, including Selangor, Pahang, and Negeri Sembilan.
Welcome back. While several countries are still hampered by the new wave of COVID-19 infections caused by the Omicron variant, a new variant of the virus has been identified in France, known as the IHU variant. It was first detected from a traveller who arrived from Cameroon, Central Africa. The World Health Organization (WHO), however, said the variant has been on their radar since November 2021, but is not considered a variant of interest (VOI) or variant of concern (VOC). Health experts say they expect more variants to appear as COVID-19 continues to be around, but will not gain traction unless it is classified as VOI or VOC. The COVID-19 daily cases can reach 30,000 if measures to contain the Omicron variant are not taken. Health Minister Khairy Jamaluddin said the decision to suspend Umrah for the time being is one of the measures that must be taken to curb the transmission of the variant, given a high number of Omicron import cases coming from Saudi Arabia.
Simulasi tersebut menunjukkan bahawa ramalan Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia, sekiranya kita tidak mengambil langkah-langkah pencegahan seperti penangguhan kepada umrah, penangguhan sementara dan juga langkah-langkah kuarantin dan sebagainya, kita akan melihat kes melonjak naik pada bulan bermula daripada bulan Januari hingga bulan Februari ini kepada lebih daripada 15,000 kes hari.
Khairy added that although studies showed that the Omicron variant causes milder infections compared to the Delta variant, hospital admission rate will still see an increase, even though it will be only for Categories 1 and Category 2 cases. Commenting on booster dosage, Khairy said 4 integration vaccine administration centers or PPV with larger capacity will begin operating on January 15, namely Kuala Lumpur World Trade Center WTC-KL, Axiata Arena Bukit Jalil, Ideal Convention Center in Shah Alam or IDCC, and Sokagakai in Klang. He said so far 30% of the adult population and 52% of the elderly in Malaysia have received the booster dose.
The COVID-19 Comirnaty vaccine manufactured by Pfizer has been given conditional approval for the immunization of children aged between 5 and 11 years old. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said the decision was made at the 368th meeting of the Drug Control Authority or DCA on Thursday.
He added that the dosage has a lower potency compared to the Comirnaty vaccine given to individuals aged 12 years old and above. Meanwhile, the meeting also approved the Comirnaty 30 mcg dosage with a new formulation for COVID-19 immunization of individuals aged 12 and above. The new formulation, he said, did not require dilution before administering and had a longer shelf life of 10 weeks compared to the existing formulation, which is 1 month when stored at 2 degrees Celsius to 8 degrees Celsius after thawing. Meanwhile, the DCA also approved the use of the CanSino vaccine as a booster dose for individuals aged 18 and above. The booster shot could be taken at any interval or between 3 and 6 months after receiving the first dose of the same vaccine. However, he said the conditional approval still required information on the quality, safety, and effectiveness of the vaccine product, which will be monitored and evaluated continuously by the National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency (NPRA) based on the latest data from time to time to ensure that the comparison of benefits over risk for the vaccines remain positive.
Wrapping up the 5 p.m. news, world number 1 Novak Djokovic will remain in a quarantine hotel throughout this weekend as a lawyer fights to enable the tennis ace to remain in the country and defend his Australian Open crown. His case is due to be heard before a federal court judge on the morning of January 10th on Monday.
He has been granted an interim injunction after launching a last-minute bid in the Federal Circuit Court, which prevents him from being deported until at least 4 p.m. Monday. The Serbian tennis star's visa troubles began late on Wednesday when he landed in Melbourne ahead of the Grand Slam event due to start on January 17th. Djokovic, a known anti-vaxxer, has refused to state his COVID-19 vaccine status, a major sticking point as all Australian Open participants must either be fully vaccinated or have a medical exemption in order to enter Victoria without undertaking the mandatory 14-day quarantine. The tournament organizers announced on Tuesday that Djokovic's exemption had been granted following a review involving 2 panels of medical experts. In a statement released on Thursday, however, the Australian Border Force announced that he had failed to provide appropriate evidence to meet entry requirements and his visa had subsequently been cancelled. The Australian Border Force are also investigating another 2 cases who were allowed to enter the country under a reportedly similar situation as Djokovic's.
And that concludes the 5 p.m. English news on TVS. With that, I'm Handy Gui. Stay safe and have a pleasant day.